What is going on, everyone, tonight? Welcome in. I am Ben. Hey, it's Sam of Exploring with Ben and Sam. Look at that. We have a guest host. He won't be staying long because, he doesn't like football. So we won't leave him much here. Please follow us here. We're going to drop the link. And we appreciate everyone here for joining in. And we're going to introduce the panel as always because we have a great one. All right, bye, Sam. He's already like, I'm out. I'm going. Let's bring in John, the Michigan man.
Absolutely. Go Blue.
Got Brandon, D4 Sports here, Texas guy.
What's going on, everybody?
Got to bring in, of course, Tony Altimore, the numbers man, the Trojan himself. Got Jordan here, the smartest guy probably on this panel, actually. Maybe outside Tony, but Clemson through and through.
You're being too kind.
Yeah,
but you're
right. Probably right. Yeah,
I try sometimes, and yeah, it's probably actually true. I'm not like bullshitting that at this point. We've got Rick, also the Trojan man here.
Good evening.
Let's go ahead and bring in Tim here. Also, the other Trojan
Attack man. Of the Trojans. How do you feel about that, Ben? You got 3 Trojans to a duck.
It is a full onslaught all the time, constantly. And we got the other coast, Joey, the West Virginia man himself. Oh, man, I meant to split this up a little more evenly. So now we got to bring in Tad Guy, representing Alabama. And we, of course, have to add in Hunter, also representing Alabama. So that was not quite equally placed as I meant it to be to disperse the fan base a little bit. But we're going to roll with it and let's carry on. How are you all doing, guys? How we feel this week?
49 to nothing good.
Understandable. It feels good to be good. That's all I can say. Feels good to be good.
Absolutely. Yes. Somebody said we have our Michigan fans representing in chat. Go Blue to all of them. So we got our outline here, and we're going to go over some stuff. We start with what the title of our video is today. All hail the Unbeatens. We still have a couple of teams that are unbeaten. We're not going to go over all of them, but we did have some surprises and some shocks and things happen with the unbeaten teams that remain. And I have to ask everybody, and this pains me. It pains me to ask this question, but is Ohio State now the number 1 team in the country?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for about 3 weeks that Ohio State's the best team in the country. Yep, number 1.
You got to dot that I.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but yes.
Yeah. Presentation-wise, performance-wise, I think at this point you have to say right now, definitely number 1.
No, I'm a dissenting voter. It's Georgia or Alabama. Your pick. It's the SEC. Ohio State's a great team. They finally played their first road game this last weekend. Both Georgia and Alabama have played 2 road games, and they won both of them. And each of them struggled. It's hard to win on the road, and Ohio State finally had the first opportunity. I think they're a great team. Are they number 1 right now at this moment? No. And that is my reason, and I'm sticking to it. Go SEC on this one.
Yeah, eye test. I mean, besides the eye test, where it does seem like ever since Notre Dame gave them a little bit of a shock, and by shock I mean made them look somewhat human. They've been rolling, and some of these stats I looked at them. C.J. Stroud alone has 1,737 passing yards. It's incredible, and what they're doing is up there. Their rushing attack also. We know that Ryan Day passes the ball a lot. He's known for that, but they do have over 1,300 on the ground, which makes me think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with against anybody now that they've figured out again, that balanced attack. But Georgia, I mean, Georgia hasn't exactly done anything to convince me that they're not up there. They just had that semi-weak performance against Missouri, but I don't think that I feel like that's just, I mean, Alabama had a couple of those where it's like 1 point, 2 points. I feel like every number one team has one of those like squeaker games where they're just not at their best for whatever reason. I don't know. What about you guys, Bama fans? What do you think about that?
Well, the nice thing about having Ohio State ranked number 1 is maybe Alabama could be ranked number 4 and we play Ohio State, because Ohio State is only 1-9 against the SEC in bowl games. So, you know, maybe we could play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl this year, and that would even make it that much more of an odd. We could beat Ohio State, but no,
you might even get 2 wins if you do that.
Yeah, personally, I think though, if you watch the games, Ohio State has probably looked the best throughout. They haven't been tested yet, so we don't know really what's going to happen when they play Penn State, Michigan, even Maryland. Maryland's looking good. So, I mean,
True.
They're going to have some games coming up to tell us who really is number 1. I think right now there's at least 6 teams that you could have in the top 4, and nobody would argue, you know, who's really number 1, who's number 2. You know, I mean, Clemson's undefeated, USC's undefeated, UCLA's undefeated. You know, throw all the undefeated up there. We're going to know in a few weeks who belongs, but I think at this point, I don't think there's that one team out there that you would say this team would beat all the other 6 teams by 3 touchdowns, which we've had in the past, 10 years. There's always been that 1 or 2 real dominant teams. I don't think this year, the top 6, I think they would be really good games.
Yeah, it's really, when you look at the landscape of the top 2 or 3 teams most years, there's usually a dominant, overwhelming 2 or 3 teams, and it tends to be Alabama, Clemson sneaks in there, Ohio State, Georgia, some combination of those. Maybe LSU has a crazy season once in a while. But this time it feels like there's more at that top level, and just maybe not one standout, but 5 or 6, like you said, Tide Guy, that are up there. What do you guys think about UCLA? You mentioned UCLA. Do you think UCLA is a top 6?
I don't think they're top 6. I think that they're definitely a top 10 to 12 team. I mean, they played against Washington very well, and to beat a very good Utah team who I've been very high on. I didn't know how much of the home field advantage would be there for them at UCLA, but I think if this game would have played at Utah, I think it would have been a little bit closer.
Yeah, Mike Fort making a really poignant comment. UCLA should be top 10. They have a great running back. Michigan fans should know. Oh yeah, we know. Charbonnet was there were just so many mouths to feed in that running back core that it made sense for him to go. I understood it.
Well, I can't get over the fact that UCLA struggled against South Alabama, and beat them 32-31. So that's why I figured Utah would just run them rapid. I figured Utah would win that game. So, but they've got another test this week when they face Oregon. So, or not this week, they're off this week, next week. So,
I think people are discounting. It's turning out that Washington wasn't the team we thought they were, but Utah is the team we think they are, and they handled Utah very well. And I agree, Utah at home is a completely different team than it is on the road. But I like what our buddy Chris TBM says about UCLA and DTR. This DTR is the DTR we thought. You're talking about a 5th-year guy. It's all coming together for him. The game's slowing down. He's not making those "what are you doing" moments anymore, and he's letting all of his athleticism. And he's, I'll put his athleticism with anybody in the country when it comes to quarterback position. And he's making the right reads, and he's got it. He doesn't have the best arm, but he has a very effective arm. So I think they're going to continue to get better. And like you talked about Charbonnet, they got a great combination. Bobo, the guy from Duke, I believe, transferred from Duke. That dude's a big, tall receiver, strong, runs great routes and fast. I mean, it's a lethal combo they have going right there, their offense. They have a transfer from Washington. I think he's leading the Pac-12 in stats. I'm sure written down in sacks. But that guy is a machine. He had some neck injury that he couldn't get cleared at Washington, but UCLA through the portal, like Chip Kelly does, he grabs these guys through the portal, and that pass rush is nasty. The one question I have about putting them in a top 5 or top 4 in that range even is the fact that their secondary is pretty poor. But again, we all know that a good pass rush could mitigate a very poor secondary. So I'm not looking forward. I mean, I thought that was a win at the beginning of the year. That may shape it to be. USC is right there with going to Salt Lake City to play Utah. So they're no joke.
Yeah, Calvin saying Utah is overrated. No, I just think I have a lot of respect for what Whittingham has done. Finally broke that hump the last year, and they look like a tough team. UCLA just got them. They were just the better team. That happens.
Cam Rising,
really
bad decisions.
Maybe Tim or Tony will know this, but
I've heard that several times.
I saw this stat yesterday during the Utah game that in the last 9 years, they're 73-23, Utah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Was that 9 or 10 years? I don't know if it's 9 or 10 years, but they're leading the Pac-12, obviously in those years, but they're 73-23. That's not a bad team.
Maybe Utah always gets stronger as the year goes on too. Like usually it's the first couple games, but as the year progresses, especially the last half of the year, that's when they get their best. And I don't know why that is, if it's just slow starting, but that second half of the year, especially, that's when they really turn it on.
And let's not forget about that Florida game. They should have won that game at Florida. And just because they I don't know. I felt like they should have won the Washington game, but it is what it is, I guess, at this point. But you're right. They seem to get better as the season goes.
I don't understand this talk about Utah being overrated. I mean, did anybody see the Rose Bowl last year? I mean, they took Ohio State.
That was one hell of a game.
Right? What about beating Oregon 2 times the way they did? Now, granted, that's last year, and there's other teams that are preseason ranked. I think Michigan State's a good example, and I understand that. But to say that Utah is overrated, that is an uneducated, biased statement. Anybody that's west of the Rockies realizes what Utah is and has been for the past 15 years. I get that. It's easy to dismiss Utah. Well, who have they played this year? Yeah, we get it, But Utah is a real team. They don't have a new coach. Kyle Whittingham is a great coach. It's all about player development. They have the same quarterback. That's a lazy statement. Sorry.
Well, also, you look at the passing yardage. You compare the passing yardage of Cameron Rising and DTR, and they're actually a lot closer than I think people would have expected. They're within 50 yards of each other. So I think Utah's a strong team again. UCLA was a little bit better.
Well, I think
on that Saturday.
Everybody on this panel thinks Tennessee's a good team this year, right? I mean, they're much improved.
Yes.
They're undefeated.
Yes.
Now, Tennessee played Florida in Tennessee and gave up 600 yards in defense. Utah went to the swamp and played Florida, and they only gave up 250 total yards.
You cannot compare 2 different opponents to 2 different. You can't do it. Can't do it.
We have a super chat coming in. Thank you, Lemansky, for your $10 contribution. Smile when you push like button. After all, when the Fighting Illini defense has beaten your offense with less than 1 minute to play, Brian Ferentz likes to smile facing defeat. Yes. Corey recovered yet? We'll see. I don't know if Corey's in the chat, but
damn,
catching some strays
tonight.
Poor Corey.
But but on Utah for just a second, I think of them the same way I think of Oklahoma State in a way, because they don't particularly recruit at a very elite level, but they're always able to develop talent. The same with Oklahoma State and what Oklahoma State is able to do. They're not going to recruit. They're not going to out recruit you, but they're going to develop their players, and so that's why I think Utah is so good, and why Kyle Whittingham has been so consistent there at Utah.
And I think we got to be careful when we start talking about out recruiting people. Are we talking about because some people at 247 they got out recruited? Because again, if you look at their secondary, they've got some NFL talent in their secondary. They're always putting guys in the defensive line, interior defensive line guys. They put those dudes into the NFL on the regular. I talk about one of the best the first linebacker. No, one of the first linebackers taken last year. Lloyd. I mean, they have players. I mean, that might have been the old Hunter. That might have been the old Utah. But over time, they've been getting better and better. And their dudes they bring in, they aren't highly rated. And we could say they're developed, or maybe their recruiting ratings were a little bit off, right? Because they didn't get that offer from Alabama. They didn't get an offer from Ohio State. Or Oregon. That they're not a high 5-star. Some of these guys they just miss on, and they have talent, and then recruiting to their system. So we got to remember that.
Tim, are you saying
let's remember something here. There's something to remember too about Tennessee and their defense, because it's easy to look at Tennessee's defense and say it's bad, but you have to remember how fast of an offense Tennessee is. So their defense is on the field quite a bit. They only get to rest for a little bit, so they get kind of wore out. It's not that they're a bad defense. The second half they'll start giving up some points just simply because they're a little tired. But Tennessee's their defense is not half bad really.
Well, if Bryce is healthy, they're about to get their the biggest test they've had all season.
Well, I agree with D4. You can't compare two teams playing another team because everyone schemes differently, has different objectives, different goals, and like Joey just said, well, guess what? Tennessee's offense is on the field very briefly while their defense is on the field. Oregon and the Bloor offense, our defense was on the field all the time. So they give up tons of yards. I mean, it was a bad defense. No, they're getting worn out, of course. But two teams scheme against each other differently. So, yeah, you can't compare necessarily one team against another team with a common opponent.
And to wrap up with unbeatens, two unbeatens are about to face each other, Michigan and Penn State. And we're going to see who drops and who will no longer be unbeaten. But Brian, thank you for your $2 super chat. We'll be talking about Michigan a little bit later in the show. King Vegeta, a Dragon Ball Z fan, I guess. $5, thank you. UCLA will win the Pac-12 and get a playoff spot. Interesting. Right. I think the Trojans may have something to say about that one.
It's possible. It's very possible. But if they do, they will get a playoff spot. If they continue, even with one loss, I can see them doing it.
Yeah,
because they have to go to Eugene, right? Is that right, Ben? And beat the Ducks. They've already beaten Washington and Utah. And let's say they win. If they say split with USC and Oregon, they're probably going to face them in the championship game. And if they win that one, they'll be a solid 11-1 team, and I'd be shocked if they were left out.
Yes, and Darrell MVP just pointed out, I of course forgot Alabama is about to play Tennessee, another matchup of unbeatens, and that brings me into the Alabama game where Alabama squeaks by at home against Texas A&M.
No, John. Can I say, please fight on, Kansas. Don't give up.
Oh, right. Dream isn't dead.
Yeah, in memoriam of Kansas.
Right.
Don't give up. You still have a good season ahead of you. Don't give up.
In the arms of a Jayhawk.
Yes.
As bad as that performance by Alabama looked, people have to remember that Jalen Milroe, that is his first big start. And it is very possible that he could just been very rattled and very nervous for that game.
Yeah.
And hence being nervous to take shots down the field. I think he has a capable arm. I've seen his high school tape, and he's a good passer.
He had some good passes in the game. He had a
But
couple of impressive passes.
I'm saying Alabama fans are wanting him to have like the Bryce and Tua kind of throws down the field.
But this is what I call sunshine pumping for your team. Oh, Jalen Milroe had a backup. Well, so did Texas A&M.
Well, but I'm saying, I would challenge anybody to be put in that big of a spotlight in that big of a game, and that be your first game to start. I don't care who you are. That's gonna ruffle your feathers a little bit.
Right, but the problem is, Hunter,
if you're gonna be number one, it doesn't ruffle your feathers. If you're gonna be number 27 and also receiving votes, then it's okay to ruffle your feathers. But if you want to argue that you're going to be number one, you got to deliver.
And with Milroe, if you watched him pass yesterday, he wasn't throwing the ball like a quarterback. He didn't step into his throws. It was mostly off his back foot. He didn't throw the ball like a quarterback should throw the ball. Yes, it was his first game, but it's not his first year at Alabama. And he's had people like, Bryce Young, he's had quarterbacks there, and he's in a quarterback room with the team that is known for developing quarterbacks. And nobody's going to convince me that Milroe who played yesterday looks like, even if it's game number 20, he's ready to be a quarterback at Alabama. I don't see it. They say he's like Jalen Hurts. Yeah, he can run like Hurts, but he can't throw. He's kind of like the old joke on Major League. He may run like Mays, but he throws like, and that's the problem.
Well, I think he will develop. I think there's still some development there that he has to do. But I still believe that he will eventually get to that point where he's a bit more of a threat, even throwing the ball.
I'm realizing that I think Bryce Young is covering up some things in terms of their offensive productivity. They don't have that Jerry Jeudy like. I just don't see that like mega elite weapon, and I think that Young has been kind of, with his good performances, I think he's been kind of the spotlight. But what about the play calling? Did you think that the play calling did Jalen Milroe any favors?
No, it didn't. It did not at all. They should have schemed for him to be able to make passes down the field. I mean, yeah, you've seen those two passes that he had for touchdowns, but they weren't very long down the field throws. They were like 10 yards. So, that one to Burton was probably 6 yards out, and Burton just took it to the house. I don't like the play calling. I'm not impressed by Bill O'Brien at all.
But the problem is, though, that's not just Milroe's. I mean, you look at Alabama's offense, and yes, most of the season we've had wide receivers injured. We do got JoJo Earl back now, but our deep ball is not there. And it don't matter if Milroe is there. It don't matter if Bryce Young is there. We could bring Mac Jones back. Nothing's going to happen.
Mac and cheese.
Yeah, the problem is, for the last, 5 years, Alabama had receivers. You mentioned Judy and Ruggs and, Waddle and, Devontae Smith. We had top receivers all the last 4 years, and this year's team, we don't have that receiver that's just going to blow right by you like they did. We don't have the deep ball. And I don't even know if we do have the deep ball. Our offensive line has not given the best protection to even allow a deep ball. So, we are scheming more of the short pass, one, because of blocking, and two, because we just don't have the receivers to blow the end off the defense.
Well, yeah. I think that Isaiah Bond is going to be that guy that was going to be eventually like a Jerry Jeudy. Y'all watched that kid last week when he got that one touchdown pass. He was flying. So I do think we have capable wide receivers, talented wide receivers. It's just them getting to that spot to where they are developed well enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, right. And Dave made a good comment just now. they should have handed it off to Gibbs at 3rd and 4. We were talking about that play earlier, just kind of a little bit of weird personnel decisions. But what about the A&M side? I thought that King did play through some adversity. He looked like he was hobbling towards the end of the game, but he still was pushing through it. But then that last play call at the end of the game, what could that have been thought through a little differently?
Should have taken a page out of the Clemson playbook. To beat Bama on the 2-yard line with last play of the game. Got to run the pick play, man.
Pick play. Yeah.
You think a pick play there, Jordan? A little pick right there would have done it?
I think it would have. I mean, they don't have a Hunter Renfro, and Haynes King is certainly not, Deshaun Watson. But who knows? Maybe Saban has forgotten. So I mean, you got to run it.
You know what, though? I will give it to King yesterday. I mean, John, you mentioned he was hobbled. That guy was killed. I mean, Alabama beat him from first quarter to the end of the game. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Every time he got up, he might have limped a little or shown signs, but he stuck out and he played. And
you know what that reminds me of? That yesterday reminded me of the Florida State game in 2017 when Alabama put Francis Wentz, whatever that kid's name was. I can't remember.
Yeah, Francois.
We put him on his butt the whole entire game, but he just kept on getting up and getting up and getting up. So I gotta give that kid credit. He's tough.
It's true. And that wasn't Bama wasn't the only escape. We also had North Carolina State that barely escaped Florida State due to a decision to pass the ball in a situation where even Joey and myself, I don't think either of us have had decades of offensive play calling. I certainly haven't, but I was like, well, why wouldn't you run there?
Well, here's what got me. Florida State had run pretty good that game. They had averaged, I think 6-7 yards a carry. Florida State had.
Right.
There's 33 seconds left. You're down to the 25-yard line. You're within field goal range. I realize you don't have the best kicker in the country. That's for sure.
Definitely
but
not.
If you got 33 seconds left, you got time to run the ball a couple of times. If you're averaging 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, you could get him 10 yards closer because you can run a couple of plays and then get a field goal off. I couldn't figure that out. And, when you back up, when you're going to go back and throw a pass, there's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong. Number one, your quarterback could get sacked and knock you out of field goal range. He could get sacked from behind and fumble the ball.
Look, Joey, Woody Hayes always said,
throw an interception.
It wasn't Woody Hayes the one who always said, when you go to pass, one of 3 things will happen and 2 of them are bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. And so it was just silly to pass that ball. And I was really upset with Norvell about that. I thought that if he would have run that ball a couple more times and kicked that field goal, even if they missed the field goal, they had a better chance of winning by trying for the field goal than they did dropping back and throwing a pass in that situation.
I think Bill O'Brien called that play.
Well, and my question is on that pass, who was wrong? Was the quarterback wrong or was the receiver wrong? Because the receiver cut inside and the quarterback threw it to the outside.
Well, the defensive back was in the huddle because he went to the outside.
Yeah, the defensive back, he knew where it was going,
right.
But the receiver, he went in. So did the quarterback miss going in and throw it out, or did the receiver run the wrong route?
I think he ran the wrong route. I think, if I remember correctly, the receiver was supposed to come back to the ball and didn't.
Yeah, it either way. So Mark Rogers did make a good point yesterday on the devil's advocate side of it, which was basically not just that the kicker is very much not the best kicker in college football, but also that the quarterback had a pretty decent completion percentage. But I just think in that situation, pretty short yardage. You're trying to give your field goal kicker the space, and there is the slight possibility. I mean, it's not completely impossible that you get a rushing touchdown. I mean, it's not completely impossible.
He was 15 of 30. He was 15
Yeah.
of 30, so only 50%.
Not great.
181 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. So I don't get that argument at all.
Joey, what if Dana Holgerson had made the call?
I would have said that's the
I bet it would have been a
genius in him.
touchdown.
I would have said that was a genius in him to do that. And that
Tony?
actually looks like a Dana Holgerson call.
Tony, we need to go together and buy a T-shirt for Joey. WWDD. What would Dana do?
Yeah. Yeah.
A little wristband.
Yeah, a little wristband.
Just so Joey can always wonder about Dana Holgerson and what Dana Holgerson would do.
Well,
there was also another call that they so he did get bailed out, and he did get the win versus LSU. But I recall there being another situation. I think it was some type of pitch call or something where I was where it didn't really make sense. There's been a couple of these like end of game decisions where for 3.5 quarters, it seems like the offensive coordinator does a great job of calling a game, and then at the end, the last couple of minutes, there's 1 or 2 of these boneheaded type decisions. Is that just first? Like, do you think he'll just learn from that and grow, and or is this just who he is?
Well, I think there's also a lot of a debate about like people in the internet world are absolutely not qualified to really understand like what goes into the game plan.
Yep.
One of my favorite, just absolutely like just dunks was during the LSU game when everyone went after Florida State about why did you pitch it near the goal line? You don't pitch, which is just an absolutely asinine statement to say, because like they've been pitching at the goal line for like 100 freaking years. And I love that Danny Cannell came out and he said, you know, it's funny. When I used to pitch it to work done at the goal line, none of y'all had anything to say about that. And so like there's a lot of, I think, fans somehow today feel like, and I'm going to exempt our friend D4, who is one of the coaches of the number 1 team in the state of Tennessee and actually knows what he's talking about. But most of the fan bases of the world literally have no idea what they're talking about. And if the play works, they're a hero. And if it fails, oh my God, I would have done the opposite. No, you wouldn't. You don't even, these people can't even name the gaps they're running into.
If it had worked, it would. Nobody would have said a word.
That's not
I
you guys. I
agree
mean,
with
it's
that,
more
but
fans in general.
I agree with that, but I'm going to use our coach for an example here, Neil Brown. So at Pitt game, we had 4th and 6 inches. He didn't go for it, and which would have sewed the game up. But then against Texas, we have 4th and 15, and he goes for it. So, go figure.
Yeah. There's definitely both sides of the coin there.
Teams of people generating analytics on this stuff for them, too.
I think what the coach was saying is it's easier to get 15 yards against Texas than it is 6 yards against Pitt. Is that how you took it, D4?
So we also had a Kansas State who skated past Iowa State for a good old fashioned Big Ten style 10-9 final score. There was an 81-yard touchdown pass, Martinez to Brooks in there. Again, we talked about this earlier. You have that game that you skate by, but you still win. Does it say more about Kansas State? Just having a little bit of offensive struggle. Does it say more about Iowa State? I'm not sure.
Well, to me, it was like watching Minnesota and Iowa go at it, in a 10-9 struggle like that. It didn't look like a Big 12 game, but the game was played at Iowa State, and anytime you can win a game in Ames, it's not that it's the most difficult place to play, but it is a tough place, tough environment. And anytime you can go in there and go away with a win, you've done something. Now Kansas State still has that loss to Lane, and so Kansas State's probably not the best team in the world either. But, they did come away with a victory in Ames. So I got to give them a little bit of credit there.
Yeah, Kevin the Bacon. Iowa State is in a game like that every other week. Also, bacon is delicious, so that's a great username. But yeah, I mean, is it now becoming a hallmark of Matt Campbell to have these? I mean, it almost feels like Iowa. Tough defense, offense struggling, especially since they've had some personnel and some player changes this year. But even before this year, we've saw that.
Well, and I wished I could do the voice, but like the great JW says, anytime you go to Ames, Iowa, and can pull out a win, that is impressive.
It is.
Very true. So in this weekend, we had narrow escapes, but we also had more upsets. This has been the year of upsets, folks. And we had Notre Dame going up against number 16 BYU, and our friend Will, who couldn't be with us tonight, but I think he was pretty happy that Notre Dame was able to get past BYU. What do people think about that?
Yeah, and the game wasn't never really in question either. I mean, the score is close, but the game wasn't really that close if you watched it. Notre Dame pretty much controlled it from the opening whistle. So Notre Dame looked pretty good for this week.
Yeah, I felt that the only people that really thought it was an upset were like some of the reporters who like spend a lot of time in Big 12 echo chambers, because I mean Vegas was pretty unified about it. Notre Dame's talent levels are better than theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no Notre Dame supporter here, but I was not at all surprised.
No, not at all. Anyone that watched that Oregon game, and Oregon was running circles around BYU, knew that that Notre Dame just had superior athletes, and this game really was surprising that people would even think about calling this an upset.
Yeah, BYU is just overranked, I think.
Notre Dame was -3, 3.5 or whatever, so they were the actual favorite, even on the road. Yeah. But that was the key for any BYU person was they had to stop the run. And
just a ranking upset, you know what I mean?
That's why it's up there. But yeah, I would agree. Also, based on Notre Dame's performance this year, it's definitely been a little up and down. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that Notre Dame has the talent.
Why? Because they actually lost to Cal? Sans reps.
Right. That very true. But they have the talent to beat BYU, and I'm glad they pulled it out.
Let's face it, if you give up 28 points to Notre Dame, you got to have a special kind of bad defense, right? Am I wrong? Come on. 28 points.
But that BYU team shows you, I mean, they're a group of five. They don't have Power 5 talent right now. You look at the way they played, like you said, against Oregon, the way they played against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame just pushed them around. They do not have offense or defensive lines that's going to play Power 5 football.
Yeah, so it really wasn't an upset. I mean, I didn't think that going into that game that BYU even had a chance at all.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I thought BYU had a chance, but it's clear Notre Dame clearly has better athletes, and quietly, they've been playing a lot better, and it seems like that offense is getting a little bit more confidence. They probably should have scored more points than they did. They put up damn near 500 yards of offense. You think they would have gotten into the 30s, but over 500 yards of offense. So I think they're starting to put some stuff together, and they're looking a lot better than they did. Obviously, week one and in those early weeks. So they'll be a team to watch. They're improving.
True. All right, I'll concede no upset there. But how about this one? Try this one on for size. Arizona State, who fired their coach, beats the Michael Penix and the big Penix energy of the Washington Huskies. Is Washington not who we thought that they were?
Well, first of all, and then we'll get to before. Washington has not won in the desert since 2001.
Exactly.
Washington is cursed in that desert.
Wow.
So, I mean, 20 years they have not. That's a conference opponent, and they have not won for 20 years in the desert. So,
Yeah.
I think we have to just sort of like take that with like not just a grain of salt, but one of the, like a Costco-sized jug of salt, because
that and real fast. Because I said it a couple weeks ago. A team that fires their coach will either lay down and die and not change, or say we have nothing to lose, and that is the most dangerous team to play.
Wisconsin,
and then Washington is absolutely cursed in the desert. That is for sure.
Well, and the other thing, by the way, that and some of you guys that were on our PAC show and our UST show know this, but Sean Aguano came into Arizona State, was one of their assistants for a couple years, but is like the most revered high school coach probably in Arizona history, winning a ton of championships at Chandler High School, and came in and immediately like dismantled all of the silliness that was sort of wrong with Herm, and I mean instantly added discipline, cleaned stuff up. Arizona State, who's like notorious for penalties in the Pac-12, they're notorious for penalties, if that says anything. And they got rid of the penalties. They cleaned it up. They added the sharpness and discipline and planning and execution. And they gave USC a heck of a game. And then they beat Washington. So, it just really shows Arizona State's never been bereft of talent. They just have traditionally not used it very well. So, I mean, who knows what they'll do for the rest of the season, but they certainly looked a lot better.
I think he's exactly right about what he said a minute ago. A team that fires their coach, like you said, is really going to lay down and just die, or fight like hell to make a season. I think that's exactly what that team has done.
It's true, and you saw what Wisconsin was made of after firing Coach Christ. So it really can go. It can go either way, and we've seen that.
Well, and
Nebraska's won 2 in a row, and they won a 1-score game on the road.
Yeah, Nebraska, Georgia.
The curse is broken.
Better.
Do what now?
I just said the curse is broken. The 1-score Scott Frost curse of losing 1-score games. They finally got one.
Hey, and Nebraska is now tied for first place in the Big Ten West. So,
so big dreams.
Things are looking up in Lincoln.
Are they still? I thought that was just kind of a joke because they played on a Friday night.
No, they're 2-1, just like everybody else. They're tied for first place.
All right, well, I'll shut up.
Yeah, that's and we'll see what they do the rest of the season. But it seems like getting rid of Scott Frost might have been a solid move, and maybe this puts Mickey Joseph in at least contention as one candidate for the for the full job next year. But here's one. Sorry, Darrell, but we had South Carolina who beat at then number 13 Kentucky.
I think the big deal in that game was that. Big deal in that game was that South Carolina's defense. I think they sacked Kentucky 6 times, and they just like controlled the line there. So
they still can't stop the run.
Yeah. Will Levis had a case of turf toe, and was not able to play. So that could that have contributed to the differential in the score there, where it literally changed the outcome?
Did.
Yeah, I mean that's we were talking earlier on Joey's channel about Texas, and I said with Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt, Texas is probably undefeated number 2 in the country behind Ohio State right now. And Kentucky's got a great team, but without Will Levis, they're not nearly as good a team. And so I think like you think about like from a power ranking standpoint or a betting standpoint or whatever, Will Levis comes back and Kentucky's right back where they were. But without Will Levis, they may have some more struggles.
I think Beamer is actually going to do a good job there at South Carolina. I think he's a good fit for that program, and what he's been able to do just in his short time there is actually pretty impressive. I mean, he's not won but you can tell that team is.
All right, Hunter. That's enough South Carolina praise. I can't.
He did get Mayo dunked on his head, so that's something.
Hunter, any more, and we're gonna need to see a bless your heart in there somewhere.
Yeah.
South Carolina, they're coming back. Bless their hearts.
Yeah, they did win that Duke's Mayo Bowl, and we'll see if that leads to a trend of more of those types of post game win product placement things. Maybe Nickelodeon will get in there and slime the head coach.
Muschamp could have gotten to the Mayo Bowl, but I'm just being a hater.
Muschamp still salty about losing to Muschamp.
Yeah, well, I can't relate to losing to Muschamp, but maybe
we shouldn't have, but that
Oh, that's right.
That was
Jordan. You don't have one of those house divided flags up, a Clemson and a South Carolina.
Oh no, nobody in my immediate family are Gamecocks. I have some, I have some relatives, like I have some uncles and cousins, but hell no.
Alabama we don't talk about that side of the family. Is that one of those things where he was dropped on his head as a kid? He didn't know any better, and
it's kind of how it goes. But I actually come from there's more Tar Heels in my family because I'm from North Carolina than Clemson and South Carolina. So luckily I don't have to deal with that too much. I just have a few family members that they give me a hard time. But it is what it is. I went to the right school.
There you go. And before we get into we are going to talk about Michigan, Indiana because of some of the news that happened that game. But we do have a little bit of somewhat breaking news that Sean Gleason, the offensive coordinator of Rutgers, has been fired. And replacing him will be one of the most Italian names I've seen, Nunzio Campanile. I should do better with that, but yeah, we'll see if that helps improve their situation at all.
Does he show up to work in a little pantsuit? And
it's very possible. I cannot confirm nor deny. Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, Rutgers, you got to give Schiano some credit for just taking that program out of the complete dumpster fire that it was in. But I do agree that they need to freshen up the offense. But listen, so I don't usually give Michigan its own topic, but this was a week, I think, to do it. Yes, I get some heat for talking about Michigan for 30 seconds sometimes. But Michigan at Indiana, of course, Mike Hart, thoughts and prayers to the family. He is stable. He's the running backs coach for the team, which created a really emotional situation at Indiana. And the measure, as we say, of a team isn't how they start, but how they finish. So Mike Hart talks to them at half from the hospital, says, "I'm okay. Let's rally. Let's get this second half." And then they pull out that 31-10 performance in the second half.
Can you fill me in on what happened? I don't even know what happened.
So Mike Hart had a seizure on the sidelines, and he was taken to the hospital where he is in stable condition now. We don't know the extent of everything that like the extent of the medical condition, or they haven't really released a ton, but we know that he's stable. We know that he's doing for the most part all right, and we'll obviously be getting more news, I'm sure, before we get to Saturday. Yep.
That's crazy.
Kevin the Bacon. Yep. I would agree. Michigan legend. And, we talked about this on my show, the show that I have on D4 Sports' channel, that Mike Hart I feel was a key reason why Indiana had the 2019 and 2020 that they had. And when he left for Michigan, and of course, Kalen DeBoer had already been gone. But I think that Tom Allen has not exactly found the best replacements, and Mike Hart really did have a stamp on that offense, I feel. So he is a legend, and I think we hope that he comes back soon and is healthy and all of that good stuff. But that game, you'll hear more about it on the D4 video. But JJ McCarthy had his best passing yardage game, 304 passing yards. Blake Corum, despite being really emotionally hit, he did still run for 123 yards. And Ronnie Bell had a great game, which we like to see him doing well and coming back after his injury all of last year. So a couple of the highlights there, and you'll hear the game film breakdown and all that other good stuff once D4 Brandon releases his video. And yes, Stephen, Michigan is getting the Ohio State treatment this year. They're getting the Ohio State treatment because we won the Big Ten. And the Michigan brand, the Michigan alumni base is huge. And now that the results actually are a little better than they were under, Brady Hoke and things like that, now they have an excuse to put them. But I think they're doing it a little too often. I would have liked to see Ohio State versus Michigan State potentially get it. It kind of made me scratch my head a little. That the Michigan-Indiana game was
yeah, that was a little odd of a selection.
But if you're honest, though, it was a better selection because the Ohio State-Michigan State game turned out to be a real
not a good,
right.
So maybe it was right. Maybe it was smart. There's smart people at Fox Sports.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a decent game. So I mean, I guess we can't really. Other than like the sticker effect, we can't really criticize.
Yep. Now next week, I do agree with it. Because we'll have Michigan facing Penn State at the Big House, and that is a game that I agree with picking. And we all love seeing Urban Meyer have to go to Ann Arbor. That's always a joy.
I think at this point, doesn't he have a condo there?
She might. Very.
Because they've only had what nine games in a row there for Big Noon.
Mark actually made a point. Looks like okay. So Fox, ABC, ESPN alternate picks. That's why OSU ND was on ABC. Okay. OSU Mish number 1. Nice. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So we're at the point now. One of my favorite segments where everybody gets to talk about their team, how they think their team is doing this year, their past week. And I think I got to give this one to D4 after a 49-0 Red River shutout against Oklahoma. What were your thoughts coming out of that game?
I don't think anything could have been sweeter than for Texas to go out there and play 4 quarters of football. It may not be the strongest Oklahoma team. I'm not going to sit here and pound my chest like we just beat 2005 USC or something. I'm not going to do that. So, with that being said, it was really good to see that the mantra of Steve Sarkisian coming in is all gas and no brakes. It was good to see an actual game of that actually coming to fruition. He didn't let his foot off the pedal. Second half, we were up 28-0 at half. I had to go back and watch half of it because my son's team went to double overtime. No, Texas is not back, David Greenshield. Any rational Texas fan will tell you that. But I think with Quinn Ewers at the helm makes this offense so much better. Nobody's got their gas on the – okay, Roger Dodger, check your USC fan with somewhere else. We're talking about Texas, not them. Just to see 4 quarters of football really excited me. And I think with Quinn Ewers at the helm that, it's limitless this season. Am I going to say that we're going to win the Big 12 championship? I don't know. This is what the point I was going to make earlier. You can't take what a team is going to do at the end of this or in the middle of the season. You can't project what they're going to do You have to wait and see. Like with the whole Utah thing, you can't tell me that Utah's a good team until we see the final result. And that's what I'm waiting for, is the final result.
And that must have been the largest margin of victory against Oklahoma since at least Mac Brown, right? I mean, it was ever.
Oh no, we're talking like World War II or something.
No, it's quite literally ever. That is the largest margin of victory for Texas. In the right
against Texas. Okay. But I mean, I think it's the largest like loss for them against anyone since something like World War II.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so that was definitely exciting. You got to see the defense step up. I know they were playing with a backup quarterback. I'm fully aware. But to do what we were supposed to do against who we were supposed to do it against was definitely reassuring to see. And Sark's first ever back-to-back Big 12 win got him to 800 or 500. Sorry, I was thinking of 8 and 8. Or got him to 500 for his career at Texas so far, and I think the future is bright. I'm not going to say, like I said, I'm not going to say that we're going to win the Big 12. I'm not going to say we're going to go undefeated for the rest of the season. I'm just saying it looks very, very bright.
And you were making a point about recruiting before the show. About the fact that there were quite a few recruits that were watching that game. What do you think it does for recruiting, that level of win?
Yeah, if I'm a Colton Vasek or a guy like that was at that game, there was that one 2024 receiver. I cannot remember his name. He said that he went to the. That's gonna drive me crazy not remembering his name. He went to the game as an Oklahoma recruit and left the Oklahoma side and went to the Texas side because Oklahoma was acting so bad and looking so bad that he went to the Texas side and hung out with those people. So if you're one of those fringe players that's like, maybe I want to go to Texas, maybe I want to go to OU, I'm gonna go ahead and commit to OU. But you see a game like that in person, it's like, do I really want to be a part of that defense? So
the good news is, though, if you sign with OU, you're going to play right away. They really do need you.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel bad for. No, I don't.
Yeah,
you don't.
A little bit.
You don't. But Jordan, Brent Venables and his defensive. I would argue he's probably one of the best DCs, maybe top 5 this century. Do you think that maybe the complexity of his system requires a year or two to really kick in, and then they'll probably be able to rally?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's any excuse to have the kind of defensive performance that they've had the last few weeks. I don't care how complex your scheme is. That was horrible. I know Oklahoma has some personnel. Yeah. Venables obviously does not have his guys in right now, and I do think that matters. They're not really in a good place right now, personnel wise. But there's a lot more that needs to. Venables needs time, but I think there's going to be some overhaul in that coaching staff. I don't think Ted Roof is the guy. I don't really know what he does. I know he calls most of the plays, because you can tell that Venables isn't the one calling the plays these days, because he's a lot calmer on the sidelines, and he's not being super animated and just flailing his arms and signaling a bunch of stuff. He was really passive. When they would pan over to him on the sideline. So I think there has to be a huge overhaul just of the within the entire program.
But if there is a complex scheme, defensively, and they're struggling, a staff will then say, "Well, let's simplify this a little bit."
Well, that's why I don't think that's all it is. Venable's scheme is complex, but I think that even if it was simple, it doesn't look like the players are very confident in their assignments. They don't seem to be playing with a lot of energy or fire, and that no amount of scheming or and coaching can, bring that out of you. You got to have that. And there are very few players that I saw on Saturday that looked like they, were confident in their abilities and, confident within the culture and the scheme. So I don't know.
There was an interesting comment made on another live temp show from, I believe it was yesterday, actually. We won't speak of that show, but some of them apparently know someone who was on the TCU staff or a player from last year who was on the sideline and said when TCU played Oklahoma, about mid-third quarter, the Oklahoma players just kind of went, screw it. Because they were like, we're gassed, we're getting blown out, and almost like they stopped trying. Do you think that's also maybe an issue with Oklahoma right now? Is like when they get down, they're just like, you know what? Why bother at this point? I mean, you hate to think that the players would give up and the coaching staff couldn't get them fired up. But maybe that's also an inevitable when you get down so big.
Yeah.
You're also
I think
talking
there's too
about
much pride. I think there's too much pride at Oklahoma. Too much winning tradition at Oklahoma for players to do that.
I didn't see much pride on Saturday.
You're also talking about some of the same kids that last year there was many reports out that they were on the sideline in a Lincoln Riley led team on their cell phones, goofing off, not paying attention. So it may be the culture that Lincoln Riley left.
Mm.
And you got to remember also that the Oklahoma prior to Brent Venables,
they love to blame him.
I know Tony and Rick are fucking laughing right now.
Yeah, that Tony and LBC are ready. Or what say you about Lincoln Riley and the culture and what you're seeing at USC?
Oh, it's so hard for poor Oklahoma. Poor Oklahoma was victimized. Show us on the doll where Lincoln Riley touched you. Show us on the doll where Lincoln Riley touched you.
There, show it.
Apparently, the transfer portal doesn't work in Norman, Oklahoma. He's the guy, Brent Venables, great DC. He's going to change the culture, and OU Sooners are all behind him because we got our guy. But I don't know this answer, but you think he would evaluate Lincoln Riley's poor defensive players, tell them to, go to Texas or go to another school, just leave so I can bring my guys in. But apparently he didn't bring his guys in. And we just spent 10 months hearing about OU DNA, right? How important it is for OU DNA. And as one Twitter commenter said, all I saw appeared to be more like Texas DNA all over those Oklahoma faces. It was not a great team. Got his guys at LSU. Lane Kiffin got his guys at Ole Miss. Mario Cristobal got some transfers down to Miami. Why are we hearing that it's Lincoln Riley's weak defensive players that are responsible for this? I mean, you were there changing for 8 months. What's going on?
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm asking that from a generic. I'm not asking. I'm sorry, but I'm just asking from a generic standpoint because they're blaming Lincoln Riley, his Alex Grinch, the poor defensive players, and hey, it's going to take time. Well, really? You're a great defensive coach. You would think you'd be able to get people in transfer portal. I mean, how many Sooner fans did we have to see at the airport? Like 3,000 when he landed, and all hail BV. I mean, I got a sign right above my shoulder. It's 55-19. That was in the championship of the Orange Bowl. Speaking of quitting, those players quit in the third quarter.
They did. It was great to see. And then those fans quit because they got in their F-350s and drove home that night.
And
they were gone from Miami.
But let me tell you, the defensive coordinator for that Oklahoma team was Brent Venables. Okay? That was Brent Venables. Bob Stoops is revered in Norman, Oklahoma. They love Bob Stoops. But that was his DC. And now you bring him back 16 years later. Sorry.
I mean, that defensive performance was the only thing worse than the Ashley Simpson halftime performance of that game.
That's right.
I'll say this, too. I mean, because you can look at Oregon. So we got Dan Lanning, and everyone dismissed Dan Lanning. As soon as he left Georgia, like, that's a Kirby Smart show. Whatever. He got Josh Lupoy. We got humiliated by Georgia. Georgia knew what to scheme against. They knew everything what to do. Georgia hasn't looked so great lately. Now they're against different competition. And look at Oregon. They've adjusted. The defense has come together and they fit. And the team never stopped fighting. Oklahoma seems to have just said, we're done. Like halfway through the games. That's kind of the saddest part is because it is Oklahoma. They're supposed to be a power brand, one of the blue bloods. And it just doesn't feel like they're in it right now at all.
Football needs Oklahoma to be good. And I hope Brett Venables honestly turns it around. I just don't want to hear their fans complaining and putting it on Lincoln Riley. And from that, I'll go ahead and transition and talk about USC.
Here we go.
I'll give you some numbers, okay? Because the disaster that USC used to be, the previous coaching regime could never make halftime adjustments. Never. Okay? In the third quarter last year, through 6 games, USC was outscored 56-41. Okay. This year, through 6 games, USC has outscored its opponents in the third quarter 62-7. Now, defense was supposed to be the weak link, and Oklahoma fans would tell you, good luck with Lincoln Riley and good luck with Alex Grinch. Well, thank you, and we appreciate the good luck because it's working. I don't know what happened, but it's working. And yes, we do give up some big plays. But if you look at some measurables about the defense, number 1 in interceptions, number 1 in turnover margin, number 5 in sacks, and I think we're in the top 18 in tackles for loss. And if you would have told me through 6 games that USC would be giving up 18.6 points a game, I would have said you're high. You're high. Because we were hoping to keep it under 25 points a game, honestly. So really the defense is getting better. I think the offense has had its moments, but nobody ever anticipated the defense to be doing what it's doing, to hold 4 opponents to 14 times, points 3 times, and 17 another. In 6 games, it's pretty good. And every game has been building. And we had a great opponent last week in Washington State, which we could have easily overlooked, looking to Utah. And the time the game was played at 4:30 Pacific, they already knew that UCLA had beat Utah. And Washington State should have been a top 25 team, but they're not because some of the voters
still should be.
Some of the voters on the East Coast would prefer to keep an LSU team at 25, and Washington State was at 26. But I can already hear the voters when the college football playoff discussion's happening. Well, you never beat a ranked team. Well, yeah, you never put Washington State where they should have been. And Ben will tell you that they pretty much got lucky. They got gift wrapped 14, 16 points in the last 4 minutes. But it is what it is. It was 4-1, but they beat them 30-14. It was a 17-14 game at halftime, and USC shut them down in the second half. So that's what I'm taking away is that we love the change in culture and what Lincoln Riley has done in 10 months. CEOs at Fortune 500 companies would love to do that. All the misfit toys that he put together from the previous regime went out and found players on both sides of the ball, even though he's an offensive coach, and he got the right players in there, and they are gelling, they are meshing. I'm not going to go through all the players, but it's pleasant. We're bowl eligible, so I'll leave it with that. We're bowl eligible as of October 9th, 2020.
And we're far ahead. So go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say everyone talks about Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams in the offense, but what I've been surprised about is just how quickly Grinch has kind of started turning around the defense, just like he did at Oklahoma.
OU. And at Wazoo. I mean, that's the thing is Grinch has turned around defenses at Wazoo. He turned it around at Oklahoma, and now he's doing it at SC. And I'll tell you the thing that I really can't get over is we talked a lot about this in the USC postgame show about the idea of playing with house money that we did not expect at this point to be 6-0. In fact, if you'd have told me at this point we'd have 2 losses, I'd have been like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So the fact that they're 6-0 right now leaves them in the driver's seat to be able to make it to the championship game. And, even with a loss. So if they lose this week to Utah, not a problem. They can still get a championship game, still get to the Rose Bowl, and it's actually pretty incredible. So, I mean, the rebuild is just unbelievable.
I was hard on like Tony, Tim, and Rick, and Bit. And I'm going, yeah, I've seen Alex Grinch. He has done good work. We had fits with him at Washington State, but then it was up and down at Oklahoma. But USC did turn it around, and they fully invested in the football program. One, not for Lincoln Riley also, but in NIL. And that helped a lot. And Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch brought in players. They did what they needed to do. And some of the wins haven't been like the prettiest, but they have won their games. They have done what they needed to do. And that's all that matters in the end, whether it was offense or defense. And they've stepped up. So props to Riley, props to Grinch, and to USC. I mean, props to them. They're 6-0, sitting pretty right now.
What about your Ducks, Ben? What about your Ducks? They seem to be almost like a different team from the Georgia game. What's going on over there?
If this is John thinks this now, John does not pay attention to the show at all. I'm highlighting it. Like if he don't, wow, impressive, John. Good job. Well, hey, we went to Arizona, where much like we just talked about Washington at Arizona State, Oregon hasn't won in Arizona since like 2011. We have lost almost every game in the state of Arizona for like 11 years. It's bad. It's like a curse. 2007, Dennis Dixon, tore his ACL and MCL or whatever, cost us that year. It's been rough. So we went in, great atmosphere. Arizona sold out that stadium for the first time since 2015. Was their first sellout at that stadium for the Wildcats. And by about 3 minutes into the second quarter, we silenced that crowd because we went up 21-3, and they went, crap. So, yeah, it was a good win. Good win. I have much respect to Arizona. Arizona is much improved. USC will have to play Arizona. Watch out for them. They're getting better. I projected this during the offseason. They're going to be much improved. But, yeah, we took care of business. Wasn't necessarily pretty, but got it done. That's all that matters. And everything's coming together.
Can I make a comment to a guy in the chat room just to let him know, hey, John, I think Tennessee just scored again on LSU.
I know. I love the Oregon comments. It's fine. I'm used to it.
So now
I have 3 or 4 Trojans around me talking shit all the time, so I'm used to it.
Well, at least with 3 Trojans around you, you're well protected.
I'm gonna transition this into a team that nobody really cares about right now, and that's West Virginia for a second.
There we go, Joey. Go for it.
Yeah, I got
everybody needs to call. Everybody needs to call time out for a second about West Virginia, okay? Maybe they're not the greatest team, that's for sure. They lost to Texas.
They're not bad.
38-20. Right, they're not bad. They lost to Texas 38-20, which is better than I can say for Oklahoma. Yeah, they showed a stat the other day on TV before the Kansas game, and they showed Kansas State, Baylor at the top of the Big 12, and Texas, Oklahoma, and West Virginia at the bottom of the Big 12. So you got the Big 12 flipped upside down. It's always the other way around. So, hey, we'll be back. I'm not too worried. Baylor, we got to play Baylor Thursday night. Great atmosphere in Morgantown. Baylor has never won in Morgantown. Never. I don't see it starting this year. I think we'll beat Baylor. I'm calling it upset lock of the week. It's ready to go. West Virginia will upset Baylor this Thursday night in Morgantown. I'm making my bet tonight. But there's still a lot of like D4 said, you can't judge a team halfway through a season. You can say, okay, they're a great team. They shouldn't lose anymore. But they're liable to lose. Same way it goes with a team that's not doing real well. They can turn things around. If we look at Oklahoma last year, or no, 2 years ago. No, it was last year, wasn't it? They came out. They lost 2 or 3 games right in a row at the beginning of the season, and then just wiped the field in the Big 12. just clean the slate. So, West Virginia could turn things around. They're not Oklahoma by far, but we've got a good chance of turning the season around. We're 2-3. Baylor is 3-2. We beat them. We've even scored with Baylor. Get ready for Texas Tech. So I think we'll right the ship here this week, starting with Baylor, and that's my thoughts on West Virginia so far. I'm not ready to fire Neil Brown. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not on the fire Neil Brown train just yet.
Joey, I'm watching ESPN, and they just broke in that Houston fired their coach, and he's going to be the new recruiting coordinator at West Virginia. He is coming home. Yeah. He's going to be your recruiting coordinator.
Back in the 50s we go. Oh, by the way, back in the 50s we go again, huh? Hey, listen, so I got a text message here a while ago while the show was going on. This is Chad Scott, the running back, our running back coach at West Virginia, says that Jaheim White, who's a running back in our 2023 class, had 22 carries for 417 yards and 6 touchdowns in his high school game Friday night. So that's a pretty good game. 22 carries, 417 yards, and 6 touchdowns. So, our class, Neil Brown's a great recruiter. He's getting some great players, a lot different than Dana Holgorsen was ever able to do at West Virginia. It was just horrible. He was great in the portal. Dana Holgorsen was. He was great at getting transfers and getting some good recruits out of transfers. You think about it, Will Greer, David Seals, a couple of good players, but he could not recruit out of high school. So, and I think
Joey, I'm going to pass that on to Sarkisian. We may need a 4th-string running back.
I like Neil Brown, and I think he's got some. West Virginia, like you said, is not the greatest team, but I do think that y'all have a wide receiver or two that I think is going to end up playing on Sundays. And
we do. I mean, Bryce Ford Wheaton, who was a 4-star recruit. We've got 3 5-stars on the team, 14 4-stars on the team. We got some talent. Don't get me wrong. We've got some talent. Neil Brown's bringing that talent in. Dana Holgorsen left us dry. I mean, left the cupboard bare. We had nothing. Because he was a horrible recruiter. So I'm liking what Neil Brown's doing. He gets all the players in place. Watch out.
What would you say would be a decent win-loss for you to keep Neil Brown? Yeah.
I think if we go, I don't know if the administration will get rid of him at all, but I think they would have to consider it if he did worse than 6-6, 7-5. Okay. I really don't know that we're going to go 6-6. I think it's more like 7-5 is where we'll be, and I think it'll be fine. Next year, though, I'm telling you, watch out because we're still a young team. We're still very young. We're playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores, a lot. Our whole offensive line is young. Our wide receivers are young with the exception of Bryce Ford Wheaton. Caden Prather is only a freshman. So, we've got a freshman running back, C.J. Donaldson. Now, he got injured at Texas, pretty severe injury. But he's only a freshman and averaging 7.5 yards a carry. Watch out. West Virginia's going to be back, So I'm excited about what our future holds.
Big statement. Joey says West Virginia is going to be back, and a team that looks like they're going right up in there. Jordan, Clemson has made the number 1 in Mark Rogers' top 25 that actually makes sense. How the Tigers been doing?
I mean, that is true. They're being carried by. As long as NC State and Wake Forest keep winning, that'll boost that resume up a little bit. I think Clemson is rounding into form. I think they've gotten better, progressively each week. Little slow start this past weekend against Boston College. They came out really that Boston College team came out really fired up, particularly defensively. It was the red bandana game. They always seem to, they always seem to come out fired up. And Jeff Hafley, I think he's very familiar with Clemson from, being at Ohio State, and he's played Clemson close the past couple of years. So they came out really fired up in that second half, in that first half. But Clemson really, I think Clemson's depth and talent really showed itself in that second half. They really got it going offensively. The defense had probably its best performance of the year. Just from a complete performance, I think they're getting healthier. Getting Xavier Thomas back, he only played 6 snaps, but got 2 sacks in those 6 snaps, and he ended up winning the MVP of the game. If you guys don't know, Clemson and Boston College, it's actually a rival. They actually have a rivalry trophy, and so he got the little leather helmet that they give out. I thought it was a pretty complete performance. Some questionable, offensively, some questionable play calling decisions, some missed opportunities. So that's something that still needs to be cleaned up. But I think Clemson is obviously far and away the best team in the ACC, and I think they're rounding into form into a true college football playoff contender. But they got another landmine this week against Florida State, so they're going to have to continue. They got to still play up to their standard, and then they've got to bring it each and every week, and so this team is still learning to do that.
Go Noles.
Question. Did I say West Virginia is back or West Virginia will be back?
I think you were saying conditional, like could be.
Yeah, they will be back. They're not back yet by any means. Next year will tell a lot, but
Yeah, I think that the hallmark of the truly elite head coaches, and I've always considered Dabo, like you've got your Nick Saban, you got your Bear Bryant, like the Mount Rushmore, and I feel like Dabo is like in that like right underneath like that, still in an elite tier. But I felt like for him to cross that next echelon is he had to deal with a complete coordinator. Like hiring new coordinators or staggered a little bit or whatever the case may be, but losing Brent Venables and now being able to rally with the type of defensive performance they had, I would argue that is starting to make a case for raising Dabo a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly, that was a big question coming, into the season. Dabo stuck to his guns. It was a decision that was really criticized by the media, especially after the season that Clemson had last year. It was thought, man, maybe they need to bring in some new guys, maybe just to kind of get a fresh start. But overall, I think these two coordinators, Brandon Streeter at offensive coordinator and Wes Goodwin at defensive coordinator have filled in those roles nicely. There's been some growing pains, but I think they've navigated it really well, and they're getting better each and every week. Particularly Wes Goodwin, the defense has, ever since that Wake Forest game, they've really been lights out. Streeter taking over the offense, you're seeing, and also Kyle Richardson being promoted to passing game coordinator. I think that was a very underrated a staff change that Dabo made that didn't, other than Clemson fans, you probably didn't know about it. But seeing the emergence of the tight ends for Clemson, Jake Brenningstool and Davis Allen has been a huge benefit, and it's it's part of the reason why DJ has had such a turnaround season.
And Lemansky made a really good comment. Dabo standing by his quarterback, and there were calls for a bench early in the season. There were people calling for it, and Dabo stuck to his guns. Yeah,
and so you're seeing that the culture that Dabo has established, and within his coaching staff, within his players, it's built to last. Whether it's no matter who's in the program, whether it wasn't all Brent Venables, it wasn't all Tony Elliott or Jeff Scott. They were all important, but they were important parts of the entire machine. And if you've built your culture in such a way that it doesn't matter who leaves, you'll be happy to see your coaching staff leave, but you have capable guys underneath them just waiting in the wings. So I think I think Dabo's done a really good job, and I think the DJ's turnaround, his reemergence as as a top. I'm not going to say he's elite or anything, but he's certainly he's a very good quarterback, and that was something you couldn't say last year. So just seeing his development, and with everything he went through last year, it was really cool. And Dabo sticking by him, obviously there was a bold decision, but it's paying off.
Yeah, it's also tough when you literally had two of the best quarterbacks of all time, because it really sets the bar ridiculously, absurdly high, and very few can. I mean, you literally had Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson in a pretty short period, pretty remarkable. And so I think it's just a tough bar for any quarterback to clear, but he seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, 14 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He threw a bad one against BC on Saturday, but he turned it around, threw 3 touchdowns in the second half. But man, if you just looking at the stats from this year and then and looking at the stats from last year, it's like you would think those were like 2 completely different quarterbacks. It's hard to believe those were put up by the same person. It's really been great. His development as a runner, he's him running is a true threat in this offense. And so he's and obviously he's been super accurate, a lot more accurate than he was last year. And I think the offense in general is just kind of gelling a little bit. Still some growing pains, and still some. You'll see a drive or two where it's like, oh, well, that didn't look good, but they're really, they're getting better each and every week. And Clemson is notorious for playing their best football in November and late in the year. They start rounding into form. I think this team is very much putting themselves in position to do that. So.
And to go back to Watson, I mean, it's great to be a great quarterback like Watson when you throw in a legal pick and, win a national championship like that. It's all great, ain't it?
I was thinking that was going to come up. I could tell that the Tide, our Tide members of the panel were ready for that one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nah, he was a great. He deserved everything he got. I mean, he was a great quarterback.
Yeah. Well, is it just me? Is it just me, or did it seem like y'all had Trevor Lawrence for like 2 seconds?
I mean, time flies when you're having fun. That's what you say. I mean, the Trevor Lawrence
3 years
were great. And just that he's. I mean, he's probably the most just naturally gifted quarterback that's ever set foot on Clemson's campus, and he was ready from day one. And I think that's the thing that kind of hurt DJ a little bit is, some guys are just not like that. DJ, he was a 5-star, but not all 5 stars are created equal. Some guys just get it right away. Some guys it takes a little bit of time. And I think DJ, I mean, there were other things that contributed to his struggles last year, but I think he needed time. And just having that pressure was no doubt a factor. So just seeing him be more comfortable and more confident in his own ability and within the offense has been a revelation, and it's been huge for Clemson this season. Because they needed every bit of his arm talent and his ability in that Wake Forest game. They certainly would have lost that.
Just remember that Dabo was built by Bama. So I just want you to remember that.
Well, you know what? I appreciate, our 3 winningest head coaches in school history are all Bama alums. So
wow.
Frank Howard, Danny Ford, and Dabo were Bama alums.
Yeah,
so we appreciate Alabama. We've had some other coaches, head coaches from Bama too, but we appreciate Alabama. I mean, the 2 schools share a lot of history. I don't think people realize that, but there's a lot of connections between the 2 schools, and
y'all got one of
Alabama guys on their staff, not just Dabo.
To answer Georgia Reload's question, Utah still ranked. Yes, they are number 19, I believe.
Yeah, they're in there. Well, speaking of needing your quarterback, Bama fans, let's start with Tide guy. Are you gonna? I can't even say rally because you've won every game, but it feels like you need to rally a little bit mentally. Is he coming back next week? And how do you feel about Tennessee coming up?
Well, the good news is he will be back next week as long as there isn't a misstep in practice. I mean, he will be ready to go. Saturday's game, I really wasn't scared because it was my birthday, and Rick told me ahead of time that my present was he was letting Alabama win. So I knew it was never in doubt since Rick promised me.
Thank you, Rick.
But
Welcome.
you look at Alabama, and I mean, everybody says, well, they're kind of down this year and that. And I'm not disagreeing with it, but every time Alabama's won a national championship, we stumble. I mean, we have historic bad games during the season. And yesterday was about as bad as we could get on offense. Our defense did good. The whole game, they did good. The offense, we had 3 fumbles, an interception. And honestly, that's a team that if that team plays Tennessee next week, we lose. I mean, I don't think anybody in here can justify Milroe would beat Tennessee. I don't see it.
Yeah.
He's not that quarterback. With Young, it's going to be a good game. I will tell you, Tennessee, it's going to be a good game. I think Alabama beats them with Bryce Young. I think this will be the best game Tennessee will play us since Saban's been there. Well, I shouldn't say since Saban, because Kiffin gave them a heck of a game back in 2009 with the 2 blocked field goals. We won that one. So since 2009, this will be the best team Tennessee is putting on the field to play us. And that offense, that looks like a legit offense. It really does. The good news is I don't think their defense is that great. So maybe this is going to be a shootout. Maybe it'll be a 45-42, who holds the ball last wins. Because I do think Tennessee will score on us. I think our defense is good. I don't totally agree with D4. I think Anderson will get at least 1 sack in the game. I'm not saying that, it's going to be like last night's game where, Turner and Anderson were all over Keene. But I hope that our offense can hold the ball long enough to give our defense a chance to rest, because it is going to be a shootout. I really believe that.
Is Hunter still here?
Yeah.
Anything to add on Bama?
Well, I think I agree with a lot of what he said there. I think Tennessee is going to be our biggest test yet, as far as having to deal with a passing attack. I do think that if Bryce will be back, and I think we win this game. I just don't think that Tennessee has a good enough defense to match up with the run attack, and when we can pass it down the field, I just don't think they will score points. And let's not forget that just about every year that Nick Saban has lost a national championship game, he's come back the next year and won one. Mm-hmm. And we've always, Black Tie Guy said, we've stumbled every year that we won a national championship. We've lost a game.
Wait a minute, that's not right.
Or well, I'm saying
2018.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I'm saying we stumbled. Oh, yeah, 2018. I thought you meant about the stumble. Yeah, 2018, we won't talk about that year.
Well, we stumbled.
We'll talk about
Pretend
that year.
that doesn't exist. Yeah.
Amazing how we forget those.
Yeah.
We forget those.
We don't count 2018. That never happened.
Well, we stumble every year that we won a national championship game, and I'm just not the one. I just don't think I don't think anybody on this panel will disagree. You don't discount Nick Saban and what he's able to do in situations where he feels that his back's against the wall or that people are doubting him. And so I'm still very hopeful. I think that
poor Nick Saban, somebody's doubting him. Oh, poor, bless his heart.
He's doing the little old Bama routine. Oh my God! I thought that was just a Dabo thing.
No, I mean it's true. There's been times where people said, "Oh, the dynasty's over." Nick Saban is there's been times where people have said stuff like that.
Yeah,
and,
rat poison.
Rat poison,
and
he's gonna have them players ready to go on Saturday. So I think Alabama wins. I'm gonna say 32-24, Bama.
Okay. It's not that seems like a plausible score, still accounting for Tennessee's offensive abilities. So I feel you there. So before we get, I mean, no one with half a brain, but definitely some people on various message boards and things, and they definitely are missing.
Skip Bayless is the one that said it.
Yes, well, definitely him. He's at the top of the list of the half a brain.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think that opinion is worth like expending oxygen on.
Yeah.
Him and Cowherd though are, great guys. They know their sports. They're, right up there with that Paul.
Hey, now take your hands off Colin Cowherd.
I do
grubby hands off Colin Cowherd.
We do. Yes, I tend to have that on in the background while doing stuff occasionally, if Mark isn't on, of course. Now, we do have a couple of housekeeping things I want to hit before we get to final thoughts and where you can find people. First of all, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Voice of College Football. Really helps Mark out a lot. People have been asking, how do I get on the panel? Well, you're in luck. I'm actually out next week. There's going to be an open spot on the panel. But here's what you have to do. You have to be a Patreon member. So Patreon, it's essentially $5 a month. Okay, $5. And you get access to our Discord where we all talk college football 24/7, 365. You get access to Mark's betting guide, where not only does Mark give his predictions, but he brings in members of the media from all over the country to give their betting picks as well. We have fun things like pick'ems and just hangouts and all kinds of things that we do all the time. And it's the best $5 you'll spend all month, in my opinion. But that's how you get on the panel. We do a roll call every Sunday morning, and then we post the link. And if you get onto that link, we do remove it because this isn't a call-in show, because Mark does like a bunch of those every week, and so does obviously we have the Pac-12 show that does call-ins and other shows that do call-ins. But this is for Patreon members to share their opinions about college football, and we'd love to have some new members of the panel. But just join our Patreon, $5.
Can I have
the more the better. The more the better, because that's it. We post it. We want everyone to be involved as much as possible, because John is doing a great job doing the narration, the layout, a fantastic job, and all of the panel members here. And the more participation we get from you guys, the better. And the more conversation Discord, it just continues to grow the community and helps Mark out a lot. And I mean, this is what we would do anyways. We'd be doing this for fun anyways on StreamYard. So now we're just here with you guys in the chat, and you guys also drive the show. So join us, because
let me advertise one more thing.
The other thing Patreon does is, if you are a Patreon member, you get to go to the USC, the Pac-12 on Wednesday, and Rick started this, and they do it on the Pac-12 now. You submit your top 25, and it will show you, if the playoffs were extended this year, it'll show you who would be in the playoffs and where they would rank.
Yeah, I'm going to get in on that this week.
So,
Joey, go for it. Joey wants to say something.
I approached Mark. Mark and I just were talking one day on the phone, and it turned out that he was in a spot because his website developer was going to be shutting down his website. His merchandise store was going to be shutting down, things like that. And I was having trouble with our merchandise store at Golden Blue Dude. And so we decided to kind of do a networking thing where I've got all the equipment now to make our own merchandise. What this will do is save money for everybody involved, because honestly, it was costing us $16, $18 for a single print t-shirt. And then we'd have to sell it to the subscribers, for $25 to get a little bit of money to cover cost. So now we're able to print those t-shirts a lot cheaper, be able to sell them a lot cheaper to people. And that's something that's set up and about ready to go now. It will be I'll probably meet with Mark sometime this week to start getting some designs ready on his T-shirts and his coffee mugs, his hats, all that stuff. We have all the equipment to start making it. So the new website is thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. You can access everything Mark Rogers on there. So you can go on there and access his writers. He's got a couple of writers that write for him over on Substack. So you can access that. You can access the merchandise store. There's a ticker tape on there so you can keep up with scores and lines on games or whatever. So be sure and visit thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. Save it to your browser, bookmark it so you always have it. And support Mark and everything that he's doing for college football with his channel. So
again, we're all here having fun like we would normally, but that's it. We're here supporting Mark. So join us here and help us continue to grow the community. Joey does, as Mark himself just said, Joey really runs the operation, truth be told. Joey knows what he's doing. He's a businessman. He knows what he's up to.
So it's the Ohio State the first, and then Voice of College Football.
First, right. We had to trademark that. He's so thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. And make sure you bookmark that page and everything, because we'll have merchandise on there probably in the next week or two. As soon as Mark tells us what he wants designed, then we get some samples to him to get his approval on them. Yeah, and looking forward to a long relationship with Mark Rogers and doing this too. It's a lot of fun. We've had some fun doing all this. So
I'm ready to get a coffee mug. Let's get a coffee mug going. Let's get a T-shirt going. I'm ready.
There's a lot of people coming into the network as well that are going to sell merchandise as well, because it's going to be a lot cheaper for them to purchase it. And I won't get into all the specifics of who all's in it, but I will tell you Mark Rogers and Golden Blue Dude are two of them. And we'll have some special deals that if you go and you buy a Mark Rogers T-shirt, you might be able to get a second one cheaper, or from another content creator that you want, maybe cheaper. So networking helps everybody, and we're hoping that it's real successful.
Speaking of networking and speaking of promoting yourselves, let's all do where we can find you and final thought. And it looks like, I think Tony, you seem like you were ready to say something.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Either way, go for it.
Oh,
where can we find you?
Yeah, I think you can find me on Twitter under TJ Altimore. Pretty easy to find. I'll put the link in the chat. And anybody hit me up. Love to engage with folks. Love to chat with folks. And certainly a great community out there. And for those of you guys that are around on Wednesdays, we're hosting the Pac-12 chat show, which is a lot of fun. So pretty much about the same time Wednesday nights. And then LBC and Tim and I do the USC post game live. So a lot of fun. We had a great crowd last week, and we hope you guys will join us. And anybody who's in the Patreon group, if you have for LBC's ballots, send those to me before Wednesday morning, so as soon as possible.
Yes, and definitely the Pac-12 show is phenomenal. I enjoy it. I think the presentation that you guys put together on all the games and the images and stuff, it's really good. People should check it out.
Thank you. We try to make it fun.
On that front, let's go. Our other Trojan still on the panel here, LBC. Oh,
he's muted. You're muted there.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. It's my first time on your Sunday College Football After Dark. John, excellent show. Appreciate it. Top notch. You can find me on Twitter as well at LBC Trojan. And as Tony said, I'm on the Pac-12 Live chat show on Wednesday evening, 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern Time. And then you'll find me with Tony and Tim on the USC post-game show after every USC game. Love to have you join us. Questions, comments, join the show. We had, I think, our biggest show last weekend, which was at a decent time. It started about 11 o'clock East Coast time, 8 o'clock Pacific. But great first 6 games of the college football season. Look forward to the next 6 weeks. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's go to D4 Sports.
All
Brandon.
right. Yeah, I have my YouTube channel, D4 Sports. I'll have Jordan put it in the comment section since he's a mod, if he will. I do game previews all week long for various teams. Michigan. I'll be doing one this week with a former Alabama player for the Alabama-Tennessee game. I do Clemson, Ohio State, Texas, many other schools all throughout the week. I appreciate all those that are already subscribed. And you can find me on the Voice of College Football Texas channel. I do the post game with Matthew Miller. I have a lot of fun doing that. Do the College Football After Dark. Tons of fun here. All these guys, proud to call all of them a friend, and appreciate everything that Mark allows us to do, and to get our voices out there and to get our own content out there as well. So Patreon is definitely appreciative of everything.
Yeah, you and you guys, a lot of us on the panel work with you every week, Brandon, and I can say it's a great time. The film reviews that we do are really cool, and it's a great touch. So definitely check out D4. I just put it in the chat, but check out D4 Sports channel and the Michigan, Clemson, et cetera, Oregon, USC, all of them, because he does a lot. But check it out, and it's good stuff. Thanks, Brandon.
No problem.
Let's go. Joey Foster. Where can people find you?
Well, Joey Foster don't have a YouTube channel per se, but I do work with probably 8 or 10 different content creators on a regular basis. The one I work with the most probably is Golden Blue Dude. So come over to Golden Blue Dude, hit us up, come and subscribe, and I'll do a show. Now I do shows on Golden Blue Dude on Patreon channel, his Patreon channel, and I also do a show on Sunday. So a lot of these guys are on that show with me, and we have a good time. We just talk college football, talk about the games from Saturday. So we'd like to have you come over next Sunday to the Golden Blue Dude. That show runs from 2 to 4 every Sunday. So, but I appreciate Mark letting me come on here, and I appreciate everything Mark entrusts me with to help him with, and I love working with Mark. And Mark's a great person, and he gives all of us a strong platform here to launch off of, and I know everybody appreciates him very much. So thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, and it's great to see Mark just chilling in chat. I love that. And just he gets to enjoy, just take a load off for a couple hours and watch us ramble. So that's great. Thank you, Joey. So I posted your Golden Blue Dude, and I posted you can subscribe to the West Virginia at Voice of College Football channel to hear all the insight and analysis there. Let's go, Jordan Bowman. Where people find you?
Yeah, so you guys can, you can follow me on Twitter at Jobo0209, right next to my name. Along with the content I create with D4, I am a co-host on the Clemson pregame and postgame on the Voice of College Football channel. So please check that out, the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. So make sure you guys check that out. It's me, Eddie, DeAndre, Smitty, and we talk about, the games, the game that Clemson played or is about to play. So it's really good stuff. If you want to kind of get an idea of how the Clemson fan base is feeling about their team, what's going on, what are the ins and outs of the program. So yeah, it would be really great if you guys would. All fans are welcome. It's a fun time over there. So make sure you check that out. But yeah, and once again, thanks to Mark for giving us the platform. This has been a lot of fun doing this these last 6 weeks. It's been a really great opportunity just to to be able to just chill and talk some college football with a large community of people. So and Mark he's on flattery mode today. I don't. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been a blast.
And thanks for contributing your time and for being part of this, Jordan. All right, let's go, Hunter. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the Discord. If anybody's not on there, it's the best $5 you'll ever spend. It's better than a Starbucks coffee. And just shout out to Mark for everything he's done to allow us to have this platform. And I'm grateful for you, John, and Ben, and everybody who's on this platform that makes college football so much more enjoyable. Being able to talk football with y'all.
It's great having you. Great having you, Hunter. And yes, check out Mark Rogers Patreon. I just put the link again. Just takes a minute or two to sign up for the $5, and then Mark will get you your link to join our Discord chat where we talk all the time college football and have nightly hangouts or almost nightly hangouts. And sometimes Mark even shows up, and it's a great time. We have a great time. So thanks, Hunter, for that. And Jeff, Tide Guy, final thought, and where can people find you, man?
Well, I'd like to answer the question in the chat room. Mike Fort asked, I need confirmation that Tide Guy isn't Harvey Updike. I can confirm I'm not Harvey Updike, and the good news is there will never be another Harvey Updike because Auburn decided not to plant trees again. So we will not be killing any more Auburn trees. So I am not Harvey Updike, unfortunately. But you guys can find me. I'm at Tide Guy. I do videos Monday through Friday. Monday nights, I started last week. We did our first one. Every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do Sports Jeopardy. And so I have 6 people come on regularly. We're going to do it one more time this week for practice so everybody can get used to it. And then starting next week, I'm going to have my 6 regular panel people, and I'm going to let somebody else come on. And every time somebody else comes on, if they beat the 6 that are on my panel, you're going to win a prize. So
wow,
come on in and see if you guys are as smart as my panel. I will warn you, though, there are no college football questions, so we're not giving away an easy category. So they can be any sports questions like soccer, so be prepared for anything. But come on in and see how smart these guys really are. It's a lot of fun. And I'd like to thank Mark for letting me on here. Great show he does. These are great guys. And honestly, if you're not a Patreon, you really are missing out. You really are. These guys you will learn an awful lot from. The Pac-12 show, even if you're not a Pac-12 fan, you're going to learn stuff. So, come in, enjoy all the knowledge that these guys have. It'll make you a lot better sports fan, I promise you. And John, you do a great job on this show. Thank you for it.
Hey, I appreciate that. That's very nice of you, man. Well, and then thanks for giving your time up to be on the panel. It's appreciated, man. So we got Ben and Sam. We got both of the explorers.
The cameo.
And you, of course, have a YouTube channel as well that people could find you at.
Yeah, well, I have to back up Tag Guy. John, you kill it doing the narrator, taking on the responsibility of getting up the game, the plan for the show. Phenomenal job, because you make my life a lot easier. But like next week, you said you're not going to be available. That's fine. I got it. I'm on a bye week next week, so the Ducks will smash that weekend. Just like everyone should smash that thumbs up for this show tonight. But you can follow me and Sam at the link that is posted in the description or in the chat now and in the video description. And hey, again, join the Patreon. So simple. Join the Discord with us. Join the panel here. You get to talk to idiots like us that do stupid things and tour dangerous locations, and then me, who also hosts the Oregon post game show or tries to do the best I can for Mark. So
yeah,
there you go.
and it's always a good time when I try to make it when I can and hang out with the Oregon post game. Sometimes it's like 3 a.m, so I'm asleep, but I try.
It's been rough the last couple weeks, so I do not blame you at all. It has been rough the last couple weeks. John, I'm going to let you just take the prize here and wrap it up. And when you go off, I'll just end it. But I'm going to let you wrap it up solo. And
all right. Oh, I'm now all of a sudden my face is like the size of Montana. So yeah, I mean, and Mark mentioned it rightfully so. I mean, Ben really is one of the people that came up with this. It's really his baby, and we're all running with it in different ways. But we appreciate that because this has really been a joy anytime I can make it. So you can find me at John Diadamo on Twitter. I also am on D4 Sports. Every week we do a Michigan show and Michigan film breakdown. So we review the previous game and then we preview the next game. So there is going to be one for the Indiana and, of course, the previewing the Penn State game. It should be coming out pretty soon. But that is pretty much it for tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. Don't forget to smash that like button. Comes out tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Brandon, for saying that in the chat. But thank you so much, everybody, and have an awesome night. And see you next week.